Hello, Stephanie.
Hello, Michael.
Speak again, and let me just check. Is it clear? Can you speak again?
Hello, Michael.
Okay, it's a little. Can you pull them in a bit? Go again.
Hello, Michael. Hello,
It's
Michael.
okay. It's a little tinny, but that's okay.
Hi, I'm Tinny.
You're
I have
tin.
questions, but we're being recorded. Can I still ask them?
Sure, but they may go in the podcast. Go.
Okay, then I'm not asking them.
Ah.
No.
And she is back. Stephanie Breaux Bradley, my good friend and fellow consultant, and we're going to have a good chat today about all things fall and planning your fall and also trying to entice yoga studio owners to plan their fall ahead if possible. Enjoy. Another episode of Yoga Biz Camp and back by popular demand, Stephanie Breaux Bradley. They like you, Stephanie.
No, I think they like us together. I think that's the magic secret sauce is us together.
I had so many client
But
calls and
thank
they're
you.
like, and other consultants saying, "Oh my God, you two are so fun together." So, you're back.
Everybody needs to stay tuned because we'll be taking this on the road soon. So they'll want to
Uh,
register for tickets ahead of time because we're going to
Yeah,
be
for sure.
managing sold out shows.
I think we should do a coast dropping in at studios, a coast to coast, and maybe we'll get a sponsor for that.
You know how much fun that would be? Like
Uh-huh.
thinking about it as we start this off with a bang.
Maybe we'll
What would you
do.
have done when you owned your studio if you had the studio visit? Like, how much would that have brought to the table to have somebody other's perspective walk through it with you?
Oh my God, even a secret shopper. Having somebody,
Mhm.
I did do that. I had friends that didn't have memberships, that didn't have associations with my students come and go through the experience.
Yeah,
And
I think it's really important.
it is because we can be in our own little world, or we cannot be on site and know what the hell's going on.
True.
And yeah, but to have somebody come in and just say, what was the experience like greeting? But we're going to talk about fall. I'm
Fall,
talking, yeah.
favorite time of year. And I think this year more than anything, because I am hoping that Mother Nature catches a clue and drops all the temperature degrees all over the country
Yeah, no
by
kidding.
at least 10. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
time for some fall weather. Yes, this is a hot topic, and I hesitate a little bit because when you talk about fall, my initial gut is, yeah, you should have figured that out back in June or July.
Let's talk
That
about
being
that.
said,
There's two camps, right? There's two camps, right? So
yes.
there's the, let's say, the studio owner that's done the work and they've got their shit
Mhm.
together and they already have their year planned out, right? They've strategically worked with URI. And we've got the whole year planned out. But then there's the other camp where we're not in that boat and we're going, holy shit, Labor Day's around the corner. And we got basically 3 weeks to pull it together. And for me, so I know this is different around the world. I've got clients around the world and I've got some in Australia where their seasons are so different
Hmm.
to ours. But typically North America, shall we say, is Labor Day. The week after Labor Day for me was always, I consider it the second New Year's. And if you're not ready for
Hmm.
that, you're really going to be struggling until the next January.
So I would like to start off my response by saying, as a studio owner, I fell somewhere in between of having my shit together and flying by the seat of my pants, depending on what was going
Okay.
on in my life. So there is some grace to be given,
For
depending on
sure.
where you
For
are in your
sure. For
life as
sure.
a
We're
studio
not
owner.
judging those
Not,
people that don't have their
yeah,
shit together.
because let's all be honest, ebbs and flows. I think it's very important, something that you tapped on about knowing your market, because here being in South Louisiana, when it comes to seasons, my seasons are a little different. We actually start school a lot earlier than Labor
Yeah.
Day,
Mhm.
but we have a serious football following, hunting season, you name it. And where it might sound trivial, it plays a major part in the
100%.
South when it comes to how you schedule things. And also in that realm, we decide, you were saying how the fall is like the second New Year's. I also had to watch what New Year's looked like because depending on where Mardi Gras would fall, if it was early in the year, people would not do their quote unquote New Year's resolution if it was early because they're like, I still have parties and Mardi Gras balls and parades
Yeah.
to go to. So I'm going to push back what that looks like until February. So the whole point in me saying this is I think that it is very important to look at what other people are doing to get ideas, but to really focus on what your niche and your market and the seasons that are enjoyed in your part of the country for proceeding forward.
And funny you said that because, yes, you're actually back to school now. A lot of the places here in Canada, the kids have got a nice long holiday until Labor Day. And so here I find that Labor Day hits and that following week, if people have got kids, that week is full of, oh shit, I haven't got this for this class. Oh, I haven't got this. I gotta go get
You need some
this gym
shoes?
equipment. Yeah, you gotta get some new shoes. So I feel like that once the kids are back, then there's a week of this, oh my God, we've got all these lists and the kids have come home with anyway, that's what I see. And then I feel after that's the sort out week, wherever your back to school season is, after that week, wherever yours is, I feel like it's okay. Now the summer's over, time for me get back into my structure, my routines. And course wise, I've got all of my studios that are on that schedule starting their courses like a beginner 101 course the week after Labor Day, pre-selling it of course, but not starting until after that.
Pre-sale, you hit on something. So I totally agree with you when it comes to I need to wait until my life has some structure so that I can get back to my routine. But what I will challenge you as a studio owner is to think about most of, the caretakers are women, they're taking care of everything. And in my head, in order for me to get from point A to point B, I need to have a plan. When you talk about pre-sale and you talk about what Labor Day looks like or after Labor Day, I think it's very important to market and start dripping it way ahead of time
6
because
weeks.
I'm going to feel better. Yes, I'm going to feel better if I'm not going to start until September 6th, but I want to make sure that I have my package ready to go. I look at the schedule, so it's game on.
Yeah,
so you don't want to wait until after Labor Day because everybody else has been doing their specials and letting people know what's going on in fall. People want to plan because they want to feel like they have control, especially in the element of the end of summer, like you just said. Oh my God, everything's chaotic. I woke up myself, my third child, and I was like, shit, you start school next week. You probably had some summer reading to do, huh? So these things go at you.
Terrible mother.
And so my point is, you want third kid. You want to make sure that whatever your offerings or whatever you have going on is known ahead of time so that someone feels like they can pre-book, buy it, get it together, know they have their plan together, and maybe even reach out to other people to join.
Yeah. So let's pause here and give the steps for the actual steps to that are. So this is the way I do it, right?
Okay,
And
let's see how you do it.
Many people have heard me say this. And you've actually followed me on this one, I believe, but you buy a big ass calendar, Staples, Dollar, whatever, big ass calendar and some fat markers. And on that calendar, you go through and you find all the stat holidays in your area and you put them on there. And then you go through all the events in a certain color. Then you go through all the events, and let's get to that soon. But then you go to all the existing events, festivals, parades, markets, whatever your town, city has going on that might be in your area, and you plot all those down. Now, if you're super savvy, and we can get you super savvy if you're not, but you would also, if you have historical data on sales, I would plot out the high and low points on your map, because I find a lot of people put a sale on at busy times when you don't need to, like January and September, when people are already going to go back. Why are you going to support that with
depending on your market?
Depending on your market, too. I'm talking about my market in particular. And so, yeah, you're right there. And then also plotting your low attendance times. So for low attendance times, that might be a bingo or whatever, where we try to get more bums on mats. You have anything to add on that? I've just yacked away.
I do, because I think, and you and I always talk about this, that when you get a thought or idea or an actionable step, whether it's from listening to this podcast, reading a book, going to a webinar, it's important to take some time to figure out how it manifests itself in your head and how you need to organize it. When I work with my clients, we take it just a little bit skewed, little step forward in the buckets of people, meaning that if I'm looking at my calendar, and I totally agree with you when it comes to, if your summer is normally lower, maybe that's when you run a series like you were talking about, or if you offer teacher training to generate income or youth programming. I also think it's important when you're looking at the whole year to make sure that you are creating either events or specials or even just gatherings for 4 buckets of people. The first bucket I would be your existing clients. We talk for days about how important retention is and how it's important not that when they become a client, that community or that communication stops. So what does it look like? Maybe it's once a quarter you have a member gathering, or you have a members only masterclass, or something for them to feel special. The second bucket I would be new clients, which, speaking to what you said, like what are the times you need to run promotions when you're having a slower time? And what does that look like when you have a new client? Is it a new beginner series like you talked about, or a workshop to have them understand a little better, but make sure over the course of the year you are tapping into that 3 or 4 times. The other 2 buckets I would say is staff. I think it's important to make sure that in your calendar, you have moments where you are either providing continuing education opportunities for them, team building events for them, evaluations to make sure that you're able to keep that product at its top notch. And the reason why I think the consistency is so important is because if someone were to be called to the office by the person in charge, there's this natural, oh my God, what did I do? But if it's a regular cadence of, listen, twice a year, I'm going to be taking your class and we're just going to evaluate what it needs to look like to bring you to the next step. And then the last bucket for me is community. Like you mentioned, like events that go on around your area. How can you show up? Not as a person necessarily selling a product, but as a person who is supporting your community. And what does that give back look like? When we speak of the fall, a lot of my studios, giving back and being a part of a community was very important. So for a lot of them, our fall open house comes with a scholarship program as well.
Tell me what you did for your because I think sometimes we rely on the existing events, but as a student has a space, a hosting space, I found that I can create my own events, create my own party. So I'm curious, what party did you create?
Living in Louisiana, let's be honest, it's always a party. But I had noticed that I had a huge teacher following. So I always had the 4:30 class on my schedule to hit the teachers. And then during the summer, you could see how it was built up more because they had more time for themselves.
Yeah, I always had they loved it in the summer. Yeah.
Yep. Got a lot of feedback from them about how it helps with the stress because they're present all day with children. And so it led me to then have some sort of contest or challenge during the summer that led to one of the teachers either winning a membership that would work for them and or submitting a name for a scholarship if there was someone in their life that they know could really benefit, but for whatever reason financially it wasn't in their budget, that we would gift a scholarship to a teacher in need for a certain amount of time. And that's what I mean. Like a lot of us that get into this business, I think that we are financially motivated because we all want to make money, but we all come with that servant's heart. So I think that it is to find that balance of what could it look like to support the people that are coming to my studio and then tap into something that's important to them as well.
Yeah.
You could also do this, and I love how we go in tangents. When you support schools in like school auctions, they're always asking for donations of things when it comes to that.
Yeah, I always supported those auction things, but I had a lot of people always coming at me for money or donations and what have you.
Yeah.
But I did put a policy around that, and the policy was it had to be local and community, and I would always support the causes for my students that were existing
Yes.
members, and they like a teacher came to me and they were doing a I would always like print off something that they could put at the option for a month membership or something like that. Let's get back
You
to
bring up a great point.
go.
You're talking about the community is, the school thing might not be your thing, right? You might not have kids. You might not like kids. You might not be in an area where there's schools. Talk, call it like it is. Talking to your clients, like you said, where you go to them and, you know what, this month we'd like to raise money for a charity that means a lot to
Yeah.
someone in the community would go far
Yeah.
in creating that community
So
and that retention.
my November event hit all of those marks. It was my biggest event of the year. It was my biggest fundraiser of the year. And it was also the biggest launch of my kind of December, January programs. And that was, I created my own party, third week of November. It started small and it got big. But third week of November, I opened my studio up to have vendors within the space. It was
Mhm.
one of two events of the year where I had to let go of my shoe policy, no shoe policy, and
It
have
probably kept you up 3 nights before.
where there'd be ice cream dripping on the floor and all that stuff. Anyway, but it was the one where I had to not be the shoe police, one of two events. But it became an amazing event, and it was called Shopping Day for Hospice. And I think I've talked
Mhm.
about this before. Hospice was my choice charity. I was affected by personally affected by hospice, by how they cared for my mom when she was dying. And I became part of our local hospice. I became vice president for 5 years of the local hospice. So it was important to me. So let's just say my
Mhm.
student base knew my my cause because they actually went through the loss of my mum and all that process with me.
Yeah.
And because it was my thing, they stepped up. So
Yes.
we had this event third week of November every single year, Shopping Day for Hospice. I had my friend Sonia Picard, a yoga jeweler, actually wearing her piece right now, if you're on the video version. And
Mhm.
she brought her jewelry in, and we had potters. So we had a pottery group in the area that would go to all the pottery. They were part of the pottery events. At the end of the event, they would say, "Do you have anything left over that you don't want to carry home?" And so through the whole year, they stored up pottery to students in their garage, and then they just bought pottery. And 100% of that pottery went to support the hospice. And then I had all these other vendors, and I think 20% of their sales went to support hospice. And so it became a thing. It became a pre-Christmas annual thing where people came every year to do their pre-Christmas shopping. They got pottery, they got jewelry, all sorts of handmade goodies. But I also had my January courses ready for pre-register and for
Yes.
purchases
For people
as
to ask
gifts.
about. Yeah.
I also had my January schedule already to go by then. And we're talking, this is 6 weeks before, right? We're 6 weeks before
Yep.
January. I'm ready to go there. And then I also had my 5 for 50 gift card, which was the perfect amount. And I also sold it via MindBody then because you can send an email you can send a gift by email arriving on a certain date. And so that was like my big, at a lull period, which is November, October, November goes
Right.
down a little bit, right? We boosted our December sales and our January sales with that. And and also I had the posters, the graphics, and everything ready to go. And for probably 10 years, I reused all of that stuff, just changing the dates and some of the pictures. And it was
That's what
because
I was going to
it
bring
was on
up.
the schedule. I already knew it was on the schedule. And I also had coupons from my local newspaper. Yes, some communities still do read their local community newspapers. And I used to pre-buy, I had coupons for the local paper, and I used to pre-buy January's and events, their half price I buy full page ads, page two for half price. So because I was working ahead, I was able to do that. I wasn't in trying to catch up mode. I got to have a sale in November. It was already done, rinse and repeat.
We talked about, go ahead. You're
No,
breathing.
I was just talking a lot.
we something that you mentioned resonated with me because I think when you're talking about like the preparation and how that looks like your success of your event obviously had to do with the connection that you had to the cause and to community. But I think it
100%.
also had to do with the fact that you branded it and it was a staple that was the same
Yep.
time every year and people knew to expect it.
And it
So
looked
when
the
I work
same.
with my clients and let's just say that they want to have this summer thing every year. Let's come up with something catchy that is authentic and aligned with your brand and your mission and your values. Let's create it all on Canva. And like you said, every year we're going to have those same templates and the same brand messaging where you just update the date, the time, whatever you need, so that people know to expect that every year. And when they see the branding, they're going to know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
I think that is amazing. And then there was another thing that came up when you were talking about, mind, body, and having all of your stuff together when they come to your event. Something that has been very successful for studios that I've worked with, either for the holidays or for Mother's Day, and I'm thinking like end of school, is to create bundles in Mind Body where you can include both a product and a service. And you touched on price point for your 5 for 50, because as a parent, it's Christmas time. We all know Christmas is crazy. I need to pick up 6 gifts for my teachers.
$50.
What does that look like? Something they can grab. You have all of these packages behind you. That's a pair of socks, a 3-pack of classes, and maybe, I don't know, some essential oils that you sell. And maybe you have a price point at like $49 and $79 that people can just grab and go. Has been huge.
Yeah, and it's that for me, that price point for that, the 5 for 50, $50. The price point. It's an easy price point to sell. And I killed it on those through November and up to Christmas. Right. So that's, you've got a good, if you launch it, you got a good 5 or 6 weeks there to really do something with that. I'm going to throw one more. Here's one that's brilliant about knowing your seasons. And I say this is brilliant because it came out of working with one of my clients, Marketing Mel, who's with
I was
one of
about
my
to say, are you coming up with yourself?
I am. So honestly, I'm good. This is a good one. I'm going to give it away for free. But so Marketing Mal. So I work with one studio where I work with 3 people within the studio. So on the marketing side, Mal and I had some great brainstorming and we came up with just something I'm so proud of. And I can't wait to see it launch. But they have a very seasonal area where a lot of university people come in. So they sell a season pass, basically a semester pass for the students, because then they're gone. And so we're talking about how do we get in front of the eyeballs? It's a different audience than segmenting your audience. This is a different audience and it takes a different method of marketing. Now, the ethics around this may not work for every yoga studio. However,
Oh God.
we are going to be doing semester ads on hookup apps.
All right, we're going to swipe.
Have a summer yoga fling.
It's catchy. I like it.
So Have a Summer Yoga Fling was my summer program, Summer Yoga Fling. And that was the pass that I sold. But I've applied this to this kind of...
You're flinging all over the place.
Flinging all over the place. Anyway, I just say, to me, that's just such a great example of time of year, particular audience, and particular product. And if you really do your research, where are the eyeballs of those people at that age? So anyway, that's a freebie.
Because you're right. You communicate differently depending on which audience you're speaking.
Totally.
And if preparing ahead is something you want to aspire to, then by doing that, you are able to siphon it out however it looks. And here's what I mean by that. You could have the same fling special that you're talking about for the summer, and the way that you address it with each of your markets, the verbiage that accompanies it could look a little different. So you could say, come have a fling, summer fling for your young college students. To your parents, you could say, maintain sanity during the summer months so that you don't
make time
lock
for
your
you.
kids out of the house.
Yeah.
So it's the same special, or it's the same package, but you need to tap into what's going to speak to that person. Like,
what's their love language?
Ready to lock your kids out of the house? Yep. What's their love language? How do they hear you? Yep. And get quirky. Use your personality. Step outside the box.
And
in all of your messaging.
What I'm finding is ChatGPT has really been fantastic for me guiding my clients how to come up with their tone. It's the tone of how you speak to people. It's the tone, and this is marketing too, but it's there's brand, but I think tone is part of that, how you speak to people. And I've been training ChatGPT on my tone, and I sent you my new kind of bio the other day, and I'm like, that's me. Like that is that complete. I completely trained it in my tone. So what's interesting now is all my future posts and all my future things when I'm addressing ChatGPT is actually talking to me. Hey, hey, Yoga Biz Champ. It's talking back to me in that tone.
Do you have a new friend, Michael?
I do. I have you and I have Chat GPT.
I think it is important to note, though, because you have been spending a lot of time working on your tone,
I
because
have. I
consistency
have.
throughout everything is
I have.
very important. So if you're using Chat GPT, totally think you should play around with it, but you need to review it and you need to tweak it so that it comes
100%.
from you. Because the last thing you want is someone to think they're getting to know you, either it's over emails or social or
Yeah.
by your tone and the messaging you're doing, and then come into your place of business and speak to you, and it's a totally different personality. It's a totally different tone. It's a totally different vibe. And they're thrown off, and therefore their trust is. So while ChatGPT is amazing to help you start what that looks like, you do need to fine tune and pay attention that it's authentic from
Yeah.
you. But
So
that's
let's
just my
talk
two
about
cents.
let's talk about that planning. So with the planning, we're talking about and using Chat GPT as a tool for that planning. I'm going through something right now with my business, and you a little bit too, right? We're re-looking at
Mm-hmm.
things, and I feel like my yoga studio owners that I work with kind of fall into the same camp as me. And it is, we're so in the business, sometimes we need to step out of the business to look at it and planning. So I'm going through a whole revamp right now. I'm going through a whole rebrand, new look, like the whole thing is happening right now, new packages and just dialing things up a little bit. But I'm actually taking a week off from my business. And August, I have people on reoccurring weekly meetings. And so August has 5 weeks in it. And so I'm taking the last week off. It doesn't affect my clients at all. And all the billing and all that stuff. But I'm taking a week off to literally work on my business. And I think studio owners, it would be a good idea to take a little bit of time off and sit back, go through the numbers, because if you're existing business, when you know your numbers, you can apply that to your plan, whether
Yes.
that's marketing,
And I
whether
think
that's bums on mats.
it all circles around to, like you said, like the planning ahead. Because as we all know, as a past studio owner, you could have the best intentions about what the week looks like as far as being proactive and getting ahead of the game.
Totally.
And then you get into the studio and life goes crazy. So I do think, and I don't necessarily look at it as taking time off. It's just switching your focus from
Totally.
being in a conversation or being out there to focusing on your own business development
Yeah.
type of thing. And I think that it is something right now. I know this has been a huge challenge and struggle for myself and my clients. It's like we looked at the summer as this time. Oh my God, I'm going to have all this time. I'm not going to have the school routine to get all of this stuff done.
Mm.
When in actuality, it was the exact opposite. Life was more chaotic because my kids didn't have a routine and I had to figure all of that out. So I think when it comes to things like this, especially now for everyone and me in my life, it's important for me to have that time to spend to be present with my family when they don't have a regular schedule.
Yeah.
So by me planning ahead of time, I'm easing the burden on myself as a studio owner so that I feel less guilty as a parent or wife or whatever that looks like. I'm not a wife right now, but I wanted to make sure the people that were wives on the podcast didn't feel left out.
By the way,
Um,
any
and
handsome guys out there that like
we're going to cut that out.
a southern
My
sassy?
point is, by planning ahead and getting your stuff on the calendar, it feels less, so you don't feel like you're being pulled in all kinds
Yeah.
of directions.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just a good
listen,
life lesson.
you're doing it a little different to me. Right? I'm taking a week off. I'm taking a week to redirect my efforts.
Yep.
But you hired a business coach, and we work with people that hire us, but you've hired a coach as well. So that's your
I
investment
did.
in and I think that's, do you want to talk about that? Because
Sure.
it's you're going through the experience with her of what our customers go through with studio owners go with us. So how has that been? for working on your business and getting clarity?
I worked with a woman by the name of Beth Bishop. So if you haven't heard, you need to go look her up. She runs a thing called the Phoenix Effect. And this had been something I've been playing around with the idea, but I'm going to be very vulnerable and right now. It was hard for me to find a person because I needed somebody to be strong enough because I can push and I can push really hard. And I needed someone to be strong enough to hold me accountable and to not let me try and finesse myself out of it when things got really sticky or when things got really deep or when I needed to get a little bit more vulnerable. And she did so in such a supportive, loving way that this has been the first time that I've jumped in with 2 feet
Yeah.
on looking at it all. And it was about business and it was about personal and it was about that whole entrepreneurial journey of us. Call it you're going to have to
Yeah.
imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah.
You're probably thinking this is something difficult and you're like, I have no idea what she's talking about. Anyway, my point is anyone in the entrepreneurial journey and
Yeah.
even those that aren't, there's this like questioning of yourself. What am I really bringing to the table kind of thing? And she had very unique way of, and we talk about it all the time, but I wasn't a serious practicer of it, the mind-body connection. When you're in a situation and you're feeling off about it, pay attention to that. What does that look like?
Yeah.
And stay in it and be aware and see how you handle it. And it's just been an amazing experience for me. And totally, you have to gift yourself that, whether that's like a business coach, whether that's like a health coach, whether that's like a life coach. I feel like there are certain times in your life where you need to step back, put the focus on yourself.
Yeah.
And
well, it's also you made an investment in yourself to relook at things and have somebody challenge you. And I see that I love what I do. And you do too. When I'm working with my studio owners, I'm invested. I'm in there with them. But when you make those investments in people that have been there where you want to be or have been in the shoes you want to be, I see a fast track. I've seen, I don't know, if wins this last week have been so amazing from people that have invested in me. Like one of my clients just told me, since I've been working with you, we've grown 60% in sales. To me, I'm just getting goosebumps saying that now because it's so meaningful to me that investment that they've had has made that kind of impact. But it's not always money, right? It's like I've got another studio owner that came to me crying 6 weeks ago about all sorts of things being out of control. And she's put the work in with me in less than 6 weeks. She's had an onboarding meeting with the staff. She's changed the pricing. She's changed the website. But more importantly, her attitude has completely, she's like now in control and empowered and excited in such a short amount of time because she was able to get herself out of the way a little bit and see things from a different perspective.
We all need help. Yeah. We all need support. We all need a sounding board. We all need a way to decompress.
You're that for me, though.
Oh, thank you. But a caveat that I wanted to say when you said that, I have studios that I have been working with for a long time, and there are cycles that happen also. Like you have moments when your studio owners are like, okay, I'm focused, 2 feet on the ground, let's move. And then they have times when I feel like I'm pulling the train by my teeth down the railroad because of what's going on. And so to your point, when you say that, that's when, as a consultant, as a good consultant, you shift the focus of what is needed in that moment. This person needs a sounding board mentor right now. They don't need me to run their KPIs and know that July was the worst month for the year, because it always is for some of our studios. You know what I mean? Like just the little lull that happens.
Completely.
Kind of thing.
Sometimes it's about a teacher issue that they need that's occupying way too much space in their head for way too much time.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the approach that you and I get more of, and I have to create those boundaries because I'll take it all on. I'll want to come in and be the hero. I want to save the day kind of thing. And at the end of the day, it's just two people connecting, wanting the best for the business. And what does that look like?
I every morning, every day I turn up to my meetings. It's a joy. It's when you
Except for that pain in the ass client. I'm joking.
yeah, there was that one.
There was that. We'll name terrain.
One or two. No, but it's pretty. I think you and I have worked with great people. So
Yeah.
anything else you can add on fall planning? Really, I think we talk about the sales things and events things, but I think we also need to look at if we have historical data in that plan, you have to look at two things: the low sales period, but also the low
Mm-hmm.
attendance periods, I think are really
Yep.
important. And they'd get addressed differently. Low sales, that's where you might have a bonus offer, a 10+2 pack or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. But then I've seen great success at the low attendance times of years of getting creative with a good bingo or a challenge or something to get people.
But also realizing because of your market and your season, there could be just low periods that are
Totally.
consistent in your studio. Just for it, maybe that's when you take your week of business development.
The last
Maybe
for
that's when you
yeah. Before Labor Day, the last 2 weeks, everybody's getting everything
so plan
last.
accordingly.
Yeah.
And
Can you share? Let's wrap this up a little bit differently. Can you share something that you've had a client win with?
I have had a lot of clients right now who are 2 feet in to retreats. One in particular that I'm thinking of has been building what that looks like and has had amazing success, not realizing she thought she had a very close community. She started having retreats and she saw that bond get even tighter. And now that she has realized what that looks like for her, we are now trying to business strategize it to make it even better. What do I mean by that? In the whole planning of the calendar, now how can we plan your retreats with enough time to also include a payment plan to make sure that the person that wants to come has a budget friendly option, but also that you have the money before the retreat actually happens.
Yeah, the
Now,
pre-sale discount I think is important there. I know one studio didn't do that, and retreats either can go great or they can be a struggle.
yep.
Yeah.
And because it's a lot to take on when you're doing a retreat, especially one that you're traveling. But I have noticed that there's been a lot of need for people to gather and get together away from their own community. And I think this is a great time to start looking into it. And by starting, don't go from 0 to 60. Start having wellness workshops, introducing people to what, if you're not already, if you're just having movement, maybe it's Reiki sessions, maybe it's sound bath sessions, maybe it's meditation, those type of things to help bring that mind body connection in together. And then you just introduce, maybe
Have
you
you
have a
ever
day
been to
retreat
one
where
of
you're just
those?
drivable. Which ones?
One of
The
those.
retreat, the sound bath, and the meditation.
Yeah, you've been to sound bath and meditation.
I need it more, I think, because I don't like to sit still. I
I know.
apparently am not calm enough for
I'm
yoga.
trying to imagine you. I'm just literally
I have
trying to
not been
imagine
to a
you going
sound
to a
bath.
sound bath, laying still for an
I'd
hour.
probably take them out and then go boom, 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 boom. Wiggy, wiggy, wiggy. Shut up.
Yeah, that's maybe we need to do a Stephanie goes to a sound bath podcast episode.
Come with me. Yeah. Come with me on my journey.
Now,
Yeah.
I had a good week this week with I've got multiple new studios in different processes of opening, just getting but last week was just this amazing week of 1 week together where one studio got the key to their place, another one got their space rented and videos and photo shoot and teacher meeting all done, and then another one just got her funding and her lease and her everything approved all in kind of
Nice.
1 week. So it was just a really nice kind of
It's only Wednesday.
It's only Wednesday, and also just watching them, all those wins, it's so fun to watch on social media. My client, Let's Get Tuned, go check them out. Let's Get Tuned. They're opening in California, sound healing studio. But the video of him when he walked in the front door and went into the business is just amazing. It's so good. It's probably on their reels, or I'll link it in the show notes. Steph, thanks for playing with me again.
Absolutely.
Where do we find you? How do they find you? You're on Instagram at
Breaux Bradley Consulting, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn.
Breaux. Breaux
Yes.
Bradley.
Yes.
And
And
your
if anybody
LinkedIn.
listening I'm part of a fantasy football team. So if anybody has any good football players that I'm not aware of, to make sure I pick, you're giving this face, Michael, because you don't follow football. Make sure that you send it my way so that I can include them on my team.
Are you just assuming I
Just
don't follow
smiling.
football?
I know you don't.
You've never asked me that question, so.
I say football, you say soccer. I know you don't.
All right. Thank you, Steph.
No.
If you are getting any value out of this podcast, I really ask you to help me out. And that's a simple thing as making sure you're subscribed, whether you're on Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon. Just make sure you're subscribed to me so you'll get the latest episodes. And if you're really enjoying it, please take a moment to rate and review. If you are looking to work with a business coach, thinking about opening a yoga studio, please go to my website, yogabizcamp.com. Feel free to book a no obligation free strategy session with me. Again, that's yogabizcamp.com, and follow me on Instagram at yogabizchamp. See you next episode. Just pulling faces at each other. Maybe this is time to wrap it up.
I think it's time to wrap it up. You're going to have 5 minutes of this podcast. And the rest
just pulling faces at each other.